Welcome back to another episode of D2D Success Stories. Here today with Zach Kinzel. Welcome, man.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Thanks for having me in.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
place is amazing.
Thanks, man. So I will intro you just a touch. 3-time Golden Door winner with the grit the last 3 years. Also previously owned a pest control company. Was able to sell your stake over there, move on, and been in the game for, were you saying 5 or 6 years?
5 years. Yeah,
Cool.
going on 6.
And I love this part. You said 24 years old.
Yeah.
So I bring that up to kind of like distinguish, like that is some tenure, but you're still a young buck though. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, anyway, yeah,
No,
y'all
yeah.
get the point.
Love that. I told you I feel old in the industry,
Yeah.
even though I'm young.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
oftentimes I'm like, man, I feel like I've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, 5 years in the industry, going on 6, not slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, like I did one little summer of pest control when I was 24 and then did other stuff for a year or two and then got back in doing windows when I was 27.
Wow.
So
That gives me hope.
different timelines, you know what
amazing.
I mean? Yeah.
That's great.
So, anyway, yeah, 3-time Golden Door winner. What were you telling me? $1 million in revenue and all that stuff.
Yep. So, first Golden Doors, 2022, 650K is the Golden Door for pest control.
Yeah.
Next year did $1 million on just under 1,000 accounts. And then the year after that was another Golden Door, which was this last year. It's another Golden Door. So yeah, it's been fun.
Fire. And senior divisional manager at Grit.
Yep.
Cool.
Exactly.
Sweet, man. So with that as kind of the intro, let's go back to the beginning. Tell us about growing up and high school and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. I wish I had like some crazy, like cool story. Like a lot of guys are like, dude, I grew up in the slums, man. Like all that.
Made it out.
They made it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a crazy story. It's unique because it's mine, but it's not crazy. I graduated high school 2018, 3-sport athlete, student body president. Like I was always trying to like do more.
Okay.
Trying to overload my schedule.
What sports?
Football, track, was state champion in track, and then basketball. So it was fun. Did that. My senior year decided I really want to commit to football. That was kind of like my thing at the time. It's what like I felt like I was the best at.
Yeah.
Other than track, but I didn't like running. I just did it because I was good at it. And it's a good skill.
Makes you better at football.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my football coach was a track coach, so you couldn't really not do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was optional, but it wasn't. And so went out and really like put on a lot of weight that senior year. Got a couple offers to go play at various schools. Went where I knew I could get school pretty much paid for. Just because for me, I took a hard look in the mirror and said, I'm not Wes Welker. I'm probably not going to the NFL, unfortunately, as a little
Were you
little guy.
like a receiver?
Yep.
Nice.
So slot receiver, kick returner guy. So
Cool.
took my scholarship, got my education. Graduated high school 2018, graduated college in 2020.
That's pretty self-aware for that age, by the way, because even though I was probably comparable skill level to you, I still thought I was going pro when I was 18.
Hey, if I looked like you, I would think I was going pro too. I just knew. I was like, well, the reason I'm good at what I do is because like I just think a lot more than other people. I knew the plays more. I knew what the play was designed to do.
That makes sense.
It wasn't that I was like crazy
slot
athletic.
receiver and all that's like inherently crafty.
Yeah.
You
have to just know everything.
Yeah.
And so like I felt like if they needed me to play quarterback, could have done that.
Yeah.
Receiver, running back, I could have done it all. But that was the only reason that made me, I guess, more unique than other people or more special in football was I just educated myself, which is like most high schoolers don't do.
Yeah.
And so it made me different.
Agreed.
So went on, graduated high school 2018, went to college, a school called Olivet in Chicago. So moved from Idaho to Chicago. That was a big culture shock. It was cold out there.
Yeah.
And met some amazing people like my wife, my sweet wife, shout out to Morgan, and went out and worked really, really hard in football. But again, it was just like, it wasn't that I was more talented than people. I played quite a bit for my time that I was there, but just because they knew they could trust me. That was it. Like I'd catch the ball when I needed to, and I knew what I needed to do, and I did my job. And so that transferred a lot into, outside of school where I was like, well, I know I'm not going to go pro. Every year that I spend in school is a little bit more debt that I'm accruing.
Right.
So let me just try to get this done as fast as I can.
Yeah.
So I graduated college in 2 years, just cranked summer classes, high school credits, as many crafty ways as I could get credits, I would.
Yep.
So I graduated when I was 20 with an international marketing degree.
Okay.
And right now I'm like 2 classes from my master's. I haven't gone back to finish.
Yeah.
Maybe I should. I don't know. But so did that. And that was the very first summer where, the summer of 2020, I graduated in the fall of 2020.
Okay.
So I still had to go back to school after my very first summer. But that's where it all like kind of came to fruition. So it was weird. Door-to-door was like bestowed upon me. I didn't go looking for it.
Yeah.
I had an internship in Germany because I was doing international marketing. So I was trying to go abroad.
Right.
And then COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you're not going anywhere. So I went back to Boise, farm work, anything that you can do in Boise for money when you're a college kid, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, this sucks. Like, I'm a hard worker, but I do not like this.
Right.
I feel like I have more talent than this. So, got introduced by my sister to this guy who was going to drive out to San Diego, California in 2 days and to go knock on people's doors. And I was like, all right, I'm in. Like, sure. I didn't know what the pay looked like or how the housing was going to work out. He was like, dude, guys that work with me make amazing money. You won't be in Idaho, and it's going to be warm, and it's the summer.
So kind of same thing I always ask everybody. So your initial recruiting process sounds like it wasn't like a competitive thing. You didn't shop.
Did not shop for deals.
It was the hookup that you had.
I only knew one person that did it, and I was like, sure.
Okay.
So it was really interesting. Driving across 2 days later with a total stranger, driving across from Idaho to San Diego, there for 2 days.
And basically from a place of what I wanted to do, which was go to Germany, fell through, and this other stuff in Boise is boring.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I should have said too is like the internship in Germany was going to be paid. And so that was how I was going to pay for school that next semester.
Okay.
And so, yes, I could make enough money at home to go pay for school, probably for that last semester. And like I said, I was on a good scholarship, but money is still money. You still got to go find it.
Yeah, the Germany job was going to be better than the Boise jobs were.
Totally.
Yeah, it was like a professional job, whereas you're...
Yeah, it's like what are you doing? Detailing cars to get or something to when you graduate. You're like, I get to go. I guess it was with Gatorade. It's like I get to go work with Gatorade, this massive company, in their marketing department in Germany. Like, which I've always wanted. Like I did a study abroad in Germany in high school, and I was like, I loved it there.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go back.
That is legit versus just doing college kid stuff in Boise.
Like putting fence posts in the ground.
Right.
I was like, this doesn't make sense.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Decided to go do that. I got to San Diego. 2 days later, they shut down California because it's like, of course, it's COVID. It's the first place to just shut down.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, half the team quit, and the other half was like, well, I guess we're going to Oklahoma City. So we drive from San Diego to Oklahoma City 2 days later, getting an Airbnb, 22 of us, one Airbnb, 2 bathrooms. It was like not ideal.
Yeah.
But I understood like this wasn't how it was supposed to be, but I got to make the most of it. I'm here. And so went out. I actually had a super crazy first experience in door-to-door. I tell people like, my experience is opposite. Most people, their first week of, pest control sales, they maybe sell one or a couple.
Yeah.
But it's a learning curve. Like
you have some kind of almost didn't make it story.
Exactly.
Right.
For me, like my very first day, I sold 5, and I was like, I am the prodigy. Everyone held me to such a high standard. They were like, dude, he's him.
Yeah.
The reality was I didn't know anything. I still hadn't memorized the pitch at that point. I handed the guy the pricing sheet, and he said, oh, I'll do it. And all these people in this cul-de-sac are all my family, and we're just going to do it together. And I didn't even discount it because I didn't know how to discount yet. And so he just paid full price for 5 houses.
Sweet deal.
And I was like, this is great. Then I went on to 7 straight bagel days. And that was tough. So then that's my, you almost didn't make it story, right? Sitting on the curb, going through it. Ended up making the most of it, selling well that month. And then going out the next month, that next month we had to move again. Oklahoma City shut down because...
Real quick before we move on.
Yeah.
How did you get out of the 7 bagels day and start selling again?
That was a good question.
Yeah.
One thing I super am super passionate about now is reporting progress so
Okay.
that I can look back on it.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that at the time. I really think the biggest thing was just I knew that there was no other option back in Boise. And so what I ended up doing was just having to kind of humble myself where I've naturally been good at a lot of things in life
Yeah.
and just like take time to meet with people who were actually better than me
Right.
and be like, hey, dude, like I need help. And like sit down at night and actually analyze and take voice recordings and like realize that this isn't going to be something like anything else I've done in my life where I just picked up like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to actually like really go hard and ask for a lot of help.
Which is funny because like it almost, it's easy to not be that person and just be like, well, yeah, like should have done that from the beginning. But the thing is you sell 5. Now you're just assuming that
I got this.
it's going to turn out today.
Yeah.
Yesterday was an anomaly. And then finally after 7, you're like, okay, no more assuming that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I'm like, wow, I got to get back. Like I thought that I had it and then it all over a 7-day span just kind of went away. Once I started seeing people that were beating me every day, who I thought I was better than every single day to where they were now after 7 days, they're at 10 deals and I'm still at 5. I'm like, well, how did that happen? I sold 5 my first day.
Yeah.
But I just noticed like, dude, they were just working really hard and asking the right questions and like coming early to the meetings and taking notes. And I was just trying to like, I was honestly a cocky kid and like just trying to like make it happen.
Yeah.
Which was like not who I wanted to be in life.
Right.
But I found myself in that sense because I just thought this was going to be another easy thing.
At this point in time, I assume you're still waiting for COVID to be over for all your marketing stuff to get back on track.
Yeah, I was doing marketing at the time. I still took the internship, but it was online. So it was over Zoom. So in the mornings, I'm doing this internship on Zoom, and then I'm skipping the morning meeting, going out, knocking, and then coming home and doing like homework, basically. That's like what my day looked like.
I bring this up because my first sales experience didn't go optimally. And I think it's because this was supposed to be my summer before I start grad school. So, you're like you're doing the job. Yeah, you're doing the job, but it's like I have something better coming my way.
Exactly.
Whereas if you don't, you buckle down, right?
Exactly. If your back's against the wall, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like I'm at any day now, this could flip and I could be going to Germany.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just banking on this. And then, yeah, I think that's such a good point. I come to the conclusion of like, that's probably another big reason that I haven't thought about is, well, I just realized that wasn't going to happen. Like things were getting worse actually.
Yeah.
And then, Oklahoma City shut down because of BLM riots. Whole city, like you do not want to be there.
Okay.
Went from there to Nashville. Mm-hmm. And then that's where I finished my rookie summer. And that was really where, honestly, like a switch flipped in my brain. Because we had a competition. And it wasn't an office competition. It was a company competition. And Advantage, they call it Survivor.
Okay.
This is like July, I think. And I'm just like, I start seeing like round 1, it's basically, if you make it, they cut the program in half every round. So it's 2-day rounds. Round 1, it's the whole sales force. Round 2, it's half the sales force. Round 3, it's a fourth of the sales force.
Right,
they keep cutting it.
Yeah.
After round 1, I had sold, I don't know, 5 maybe, 3 in one day, 2 in another day, which I thought was amazing for my office. Because I was like,
probably enough to make the half.
Yeah, I was like, and I like barely made the cut. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. Like I'm like one of the best at this point. I had been selling consistently 3 a day. Like no one else really was doing that.
Yes.
I had picked it up at that point, and like I was like, wait a second, nothing. I've always been like the guy in my office, and I was selling more than my manager at the time. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like these guys, like I barely make the cut. So that's when it really like hit me. I was like, oh, I'm not that good actually. I thought I was really good. Apparently, I'm not. So the next round, I was like, no, I'm not getting. Like I will not get cut. Went out and in those 2 days, I think I sold 10, and I was like, made the cut, but I think the cut was like 8, and I was like, oh, geez, it just gets harder. Yeah. And like, as they keep cutting it, you're going against, more impressive people. Right? I'm talking like at the time, these guys like maybe this dates me, but like the Andrew Ostlers and the Tyler Wymans and the guy like Josh Campos's who are like really good, and they've been doing it for years. Kelton Coles, and I'm like, these guys are studs, and they don't know me, but I know them. I've seen them on training videos at this point. Like They wrote the manual, whatever. So compete to the point where like one day I do 10 in a day. I'm like, this is like I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And that was really when I started like reflecting and realize, because like one of the best pieces of advice, my regional calls me, who I'd never met in person ever, calls me and he's like, hey dude, congrats on the 10-day. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Like, who are you? This is awesome. Like, he's like, listen, I know you don't know me, but take one piece of advice from me. Write down what you did good today.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be days where you don't do as good, and you're going to want to remember what you did today. So I was like, oh, okay. And that's like where my journaling started in my career. But so I started writing down what I did, and I was like, and then I wrote down 3 things I did really well and 1 thing I could have improved on.
It's funny because, just real quick, when people are slumping, you say, well, what do you think's going on? And they say, I don't know, man, I'm doing everything just the same as when I was up. And the truth is they're not.
Totally.
But they can't identify what's different.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean,
it feels
unless
the
maybe
same.
they've done that journaling, then maybe they could, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, so I sold 10, and I was blown away. I was like flabbergasted. My manager took me out to dinner. I was like, let's go. Like, made the cut that time. Things were getting harder. Sold 10 the next day. I was like, whoa, I just did it twice in a row. Then I sold 14 the next day.
Wow.
And then I sold 17 the next day. And I was like, and for reference, 17 was the most that anyone had ever sold in a day as a rookie at the company up until that point.
Okay.
And I was like, and I don't know, you know, obviously I was journaling and I was taking notes and like, but I just I'm competitive and I just really wanted it. And I wanted to like, at that point, I kind of decided that like, I'm pretty good at this. And I really wanted to make a name for myself in the company so that next year, because I knew I was graduating after that next semester, I'm like, dude, I want them to like, I want to be an asset to the company. I want to be someone that like, they want to grow around. They want to invest into. That's all I've ever wanted in life was like a mentor.
Yeah.
And like, this is my opportunity to finally have mentorship.
And so, sorry, this is in Nashville that first summer still.
Nashville first summer, yeah, July.
Okay. So it sounds, just as a side note, it sounds like somewhere in there the mindset flipped and you're wanting to keep doing pest control.
Yep. It was like right after that first like 10-day, I was like, I could keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like I could like, I don't know what happens on those days, but you're just euphoric. You're like, this isn't that bad.
Right.
Because you're selling everyone you're talking to at that point. Like you feel like you are, even though you're totally not. But so yeah, I sold really well. Over those last 2.5 weeks, I saved my summer. Like, because I had to leave first week of August for fall camp, 2 days, all the stuff. Over those last 2 weeks, in you know, I think 16 knocking days, I sold like 172 accounts.
Wow.
Like I didn't sell less than 10 the whole time. And there was days I sold 17, 16s, 15s. And I was like, and that saved my summer. That put me right at 385 accounts. I wish I could have pushed for 400. I had to get to 2 days. Like, this is like my senior season, you know, I had to get back. And I was just like, at that point, I was like, dude, not only could I do this, but I could do this at a high level.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the leaderboard and I'm the top of the leaderboard over all these vets, over all these guys. And like, now granted, like I probably wasn't doing things totally the right way. Like I look back and I'm like, yeah, I think of the neighborhoods I was knocking, like they were kind of slummy, like honestly. Yeah. And like, I'm like, yeah, of course they all had bugs, but like maybe they weren't the most quality accounts. And like, as now it's like, I try to sell more and more quality, but I was like, those are things I can change. I can control where I go and I can control who I talk to. And I was always ethical about it, but it's like now if I could just get a little bit better, I could make some serious money doing this. And that's when I switched. And I was going to just go knock again for Vantage that next year. Everything was good. Like, but then half the company left and went and started a solar company. And I was like, that's when Vantage Solar began. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm talking to my football coach at Olivet, who was a, you know, multi-millionaire sales rep for Oracle. Sold, you know, when they sold, he got paid out millions and super big mentor of mine at the time. And I was like, what do you think of solar? He's like, dude, I mean, it's good. It looks like, he's like, I know people who have done well in solar, but it looks like a gold rush, but it's not sustainable. And like, to me, like, I don't have anything in solar. I think guys do amazing in solar, and maybe it'll last forever. Who knows? But I just took his advice like gospel because, you know, you're 20, 21, and you're like, he's made way more than you. And he said, dude, you'll never really like be wealthy unless you like go start something. So I was like, well, I don't know what I'm good at other than selling pest control. So I guess I'll just start there. So went to Boise, partnered up with a couple guys who didn't go do solar. We started our own pest control company. They did amazing. Like, and they still do amazing. They do amazing work, train great reps. But I wasn't passionate about pest control. Like, I was there and I was building the business because someone told me to.
And how long was this, by the way?
This is after I graduated college in 2020, so December, and I was there for a year. So just almost 1 year on the dot, a year and a month. And that's like how long I was like building this business,
building a pest company.
And I graduated marketing, so I was doing online ads, doing all the things. We bought the truck, we got it wrapped, all the things that you do.
Startup things,
But like, we made tons of mistakes. Like we sucked for a long time. Made every mistake you could make because we don't need help. Like, we got this. And I loved what we were doing. But I just realized the only reason I was like in this pest control business was because I thought it was the only thing I was good at, was like selling pest control. Unfortunately, that year I sold way less than I'd ever sold. Like, I sold 385 the year before. And for 250K. That next year I sold 220K, which I thought, dude, I'm going to go 500K minimum. Sold 220K. Took on a lot more responsibility, started teching jobs. And I was like, this isn't where I imagined like this going.
You started conducting the service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. Sorry. I was a technician. Working hard, spraying bugs.
Right.
And I was like, this isn't exactly where I wanted to go. I'm just here because I was told that the only way to get rich is to start a business.
So being in the weeds didn't really resonate with you.
No. And like, I liked doing what I told my people to do. Like, I was always the guy that, like, I wouldn't ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do. So that's why I wanted to do it. But I just didn't see where it could really blow up. And I'd seen all these other companies that had already caught the wave and they already blew up. And I just saw what we were doing wasn't aligned with what they were doing. And we were poised for the guys I was working with to make a chill 300K every year and just for the rest of their lives. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted explosive
lifestyle
growth.
Business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, I'm 20, 21 at the time. And like, I wanted to explode. And so I look at this new company that just opened up and it's the talk of the town, the Grit. I'm like, well, they're obviously selling way better than me. So, and they seem cool. Like, the brand is like relatable. Seems like something I'd like to be a part of. Like, but I just couldn't get behind it. And I was like, nah, I'm just going to be where my feet are. So I stayed and I kept knocking and I knocked on someone's door and they said, hey, you should go, meet my son. He works in door-to-door. He's like really good at door-to-door. I was like, really? So they introduced me to this guy, Jackson Jr., who, for those of you who don't know, Jackson Jr. is responsible for probably 80% of the growth of the Grit. Recruited Drew Hansen, like Chuck Mills, all the top guys. And I'm like, this is perfect. I'm going to switch him to come work for my company, and we're going to have the biggest sales force that anyone's ever had.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, that is such a good idea.
Isn't it funny that, just real quick, how many doors have you knocked where they say, you should talk to my son, he's in door-to-door, and the son is
bum.
The son really, the son is a bum and he should come work for you.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny that was a super legit instance though?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because I had looked into the Grit and like I knew Jackson Jr. When they said that, I was like, wait a second, I think I know this guy.
Yeah, right.
I've seen he throws down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this is perfect. This is my in. He's from Boise. I'm sure he would like to move back. Like, so, and he's like, yeah, dude, that sounds awesome. Let me fly you out to Utah. We could talk more about it. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I fly out to Utah. I find myself in the Grit building all of a sudden. The old bait and switch. Yeah. And I'm meeting all these guys and I'm like, these guys are sick. Like, are they going to come? He's like, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and then get in a meeting and he's like, so listen, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to come work for you, but you should come work for me. And this is why. And he explained it. And the way that he, portrayed it and like explained it to me was the Grit is just, the Grit is nothing without you. Like, we're just a marketing agency, but more than anything, we are just a set of systems that are designed for you to take advantage of. And so it's your business and you're running it. just within the parameters, and you get to learn from the mistakes we already made. And I was like, okay, I'm not passionate about bugs. What I'm passionate about is selling and recruiting. And I've always wanted to be like a coach or a teacher, but they just don't pay well.
Right.
And I was a football coach for a little bit when I was in Boise, and I loved it. But I was like, this is the closest thing I can get to coaching and also make amazing money.
So you got to kind of marry the, what would I say, like the wanting to start something, the sense of ownership, but getting out of the weeds of ops and that type of stuff. Yeah.
It's like it was all handled for you.
Right.
Which was, for me, it was a dream come true. It was like exactly what I was looking for.
Yep.
So I was like, sure, let's do it. Switch to the grit. Didn't bring like any guys, didn't have anything. And I told Jackson, and hopefully this will resonate with you, I think, more than anyone, because I know that you're passionate about training Golden Doors.
Yep.
And like I know that you were big about like, dude, we want to have the best sales force.
Yep.
They were on the same wave. They were like, John.
Yeah.
They want Golden Doors. They want to produce. This was before Golden Door was like a big thing. It was like they had done like 10 or something, and that was like the rave. So they had 10 Golden Doors. Most people didn't even have one. And I was like, dude, I want to train. My goal is to train more 1,000 account reps than anyone's ever trained. That's what I want to do. And he was like, cool. Like, what are you going to teach them that they don't already know? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, have you ever done 1,000 accounts? And I was like, I've done 400 accounts. And he's like, well, okay, like, well, if you've only ever done 400 accounts, you're going to be their ceiling. And so if you've ever done 400 accounts, they're going to do 300. If you do 500, they're going to do 400. And I was like, so you're telling me I got to like go work hard? And he's like, yeah, you got to like go. So
dang it.
I know. This is not what I was thinking when I came here. So I went out for the goal for 400K. That was like my goal my first summer.
Yeah.
Grinded, went out with a Golden Door, Alec Withers, who's like a big mentor of mine, like my best friend. Went out with him and ran an office together in Boston. And that first month, like it was a grind. But like at the end of the month, I noticed something. Because Alec was a Golden Door. He'd sold 780 accounts the year before. He was one of the 10 Golden Doors. Like I was privileged to be able to work with him. And he's a great leader. And I noticed that I was ahead of him on the month. And I was like, it's probably just a fluke. It was April, it's cold. So then, May rolls around. And end of May, I'm like ahead of him. Or like, we're like neck and neck. I think I was maybe a little bit ahead. He'll probably say the other way though. But so, and I'm like, why am I going for 400K? I'm beating a Golden Door, or at least competing with a Golden Door every single day. And so then I just raised my standard. I was like, well, he obviously believes he can do a Golden Door, and I'm selling just as much as him. And I'm working really, really hard, obviously. Like I can probably do a Golden Door too. And that's when it really shifted to where like my ceiling was like lifted, I guess, because I thought I was a 400K guy. Because my thought process was, I sold almost 400 accounts in my best summer ever. If I could just go back and sell that same amount of accounts, or maybe a little more, but at a higher contract value, like about 1,000, I'm there. And then, my contract value was like 1,300, and I was selling like way more than I'd ever sold in a week. And I was like, my best month up until that point was like 100K, and I was having multiple 100K months. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I should go do this thing. And then August rolls around, Alec goes home. He went home at 450K that year for family, and I was just out there in August, and I'm like, I have 200K to go. It's August 20th. I'm like, I call Jackson, I'm like, dude, what a hell of a summer. I'm coming home. And he's like, he hung up. I was like, oh, the call must have just failed. So I call him, I'm like, hey man, coming home. And he's like, hangs up. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Pick up the phone. He's like, are you done being stupid, or can we talk? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, you said you are who you say you are, but now all of a sudden you want to quit on your goal. I was like, dude, my goal before the summer was 400K. I'm at 450K. Like it's August 20th. Like the summer's over. And he was like, dude, he said, oh, I didn't realize your goal was 400K. I thought your goal was to train as many 1,000 account reps than anyone's ever trained and teach people how to be the best version of themselves. I was like, well, that's my like ultimate goal. He's like, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to work for a quitter. I was like, all right. Like, and I was like crying. I was like, dude, I want to go home so bad. But he was like, listen, whatever we need to do to put you in a situation where you feel like you can do it, let's do it. But we're doing it. We're doing it together, and we're going to get it done. I don't care if I got to fly out to where you're at and shadow you every day for the next month or 2 months or until Christmas, if that's how long it takes. But like, you're getting it done. And honestly, that's like really when my door-to-door career like transformed, because I could totally be the guy that has only ever done 400K. Like, that was what I had set for myself. But because he believed in me so much more than that, flew me out to New Jersey. I met up with Cody Olive, who had done, now he's done 6 Golden Doors in 6 years, like crazy. And that guy's a finisher. He sprints through September more. Like, I've never seen people knock September more than him. It's like his favorite time of year.
Right.
And I was like, I've never knocked past August, like 5th. And so this is way different for me. So I go out with him, and he just teaches me the ways. He's like, dude, you got to take care of your body. You got to take care of your mind. You got to work hard. So I start, saunaing in the morning, massages on the weekends, IVs, taking care of my body. And in the last, 2.5, 3 weeks of the summer, I hit the last 200K I needed to sell. My best month ever. I did 246K in a month. And I was like, that's almost half a Golden Door in 1 month. That was like, my whole summer just turned around. And from there, I was like, dang, like, I'm a finisher. And that was just my identity from that point on. It's like, whatever I start, I finish. And I think that's really what carried me into the success I've had until this point. Because now, since that year, every goal I've ever set, I've hit. And I guess the very first time I didn't hit a goal was this year. It was way humbling. Yeah.
What year was this, by the way?
This was my 3rd year, so 2022.
Okay. And I remember you saying that you didn't take anybody from the place the company that you sold your shares in.
Yeah.
Right? So you're coming in as a rep. Skip forward 3 years, you're senior divisional manager. Obviously, there's been a lot of scaling up since then. Talk about, you get home from the summer and, the way I understand the game, my kind of philosophy is you go hit your big numbers and then you jump on social and say, I'm really good at this. I'll teach you how to do it too.
Yeah. It's pretty accurate.
Yeah. I mean, talk about that. Talk about recruiting and just going from there.
No, I think at that point I had tons of confidence. Like I really did feel like, if you're going to work with me, you're going to work with someone who like does what they say they're going to do. And that's hard to find in the industry. Right. It's like a lot of people are big into come work for me. Yeah. So that I don't have to work. Yeah. And I was just on the wave of like, come work with me and I'll lead from the front. And like, you just hitch onto the wagon and I'm going to carry you to the promised land. Yeah. And like, so I guess that confidence and that like altruism was like really attractive to people. But I still didn't recruit great. Like, don't get me wrong. That year, we recruited a lot of bodies, but not a lot of quality. Okay. And that taught me a lot. And you go through, one thing Todd Peterson says is like, it's a lot of us think like, how many guys can we like get when really it's how many guys do you have to go through to get the guys that you need. Yeah. Cause I'd go through 100 guys to get 4 quality rather than go get 100 guys. That wouldn't make sense. Right. Yeah. So we were going through a lot of bodies and,
so what was like the first summer? First manager summer.
Recruiting. Yeah. I went out to Cincinnati that year. We started with like 60 guys. We finished with like 25-ish.
One office?
One office.
That's huge.
Yeah. And it was, and I had a co-manager with me who had done it, big offices before. So I felt comfortable where I was at.
So it's you, him, and
basically all rookies.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically all rookies. Like maybe we had like 1 or 2 vets. And that was pretty much it.
So like the number of people to go hit doors with somebody who's good in crisis is very low.
Yeah. No, it was like 1 vet to every like 5 to 10 rookies, which is like, it's a spooky ratio if you've never done that before. So
I know all about it.
So went out and like, we shed fat probably a lot quicker. We should have, like, I didn't know any better. Like, I don't know, but it worked out. And, that year we had actually to this date, it was my best summer in personal sales and in like what my team produced, not in revenue, but our per rep average was over 200K that year. Yeah. Which like for us was amazing with 75% rookies. We had 7 rookies hit 250K that year. I did $1 million. I had another guy in my office that did 800K. We had another guy that did 500K and then a 400K, and then 7 rookies do 250K.
Huge.
And we were like I thought I was back like to the Vantage days where I'm like, I'm him again, right? And we crushed, but I really only did because it was me and the other guy, we were combined. I personally did 1.8 million that year in downline. So from 0 to 1.8 million was a massive jump.
Yes.
But it wasn't like where I wanted to be, because it still didn't put me in the room where like everything was happening.
Okay.
Where I felt that at the Grit, if I want to be like what I wanted to be at Vantage, which was like a really contributing factor to the growth of this company, I got to be in the meetings. I got to be in the room where it happens. And you really didn't hit that until you hit that like next tier.
Okay.
Right? So, grinded, recruited hard that off season to the point where it was like indisputable. Like, even though I hadn't hit the number, I was in every meeting. And they're like, dude, we need you. Like, you're growing faster.
Because you were about to be.
Yeah,
they could see it.
About to be. And they're like, they just, something about like John and Garth and Ben and those guys is like, one thing that they're really good at is like seeing leadership. And I think more than anything, making leaders believe more in themselves than like they believe. Right.
Yeah, right.
So they believed in me more than I believed in myself. And they were like, dude, we know you're going to be one of the best. And like we want you to be like more knowledge, the better. And so I was just a fly on the wall. I didn't have anything to contribute, but I was just listening and listening and listening. And the ways that they taught me to recruit, like what you said, the tactics were, be genuine, be authentic, and do what you say you're going to do, and be inspiring. And like, if you do those things, like you'll recruit, and you won't recruit bums either. You're going to recruit people who like genuinely like you or like want to be like you. Yeah. Which is the right people. Like, and so then this last year, that led up to this last summer, 2024, where then my team went out and we went from 1.8 million to 5.8 million.
So talk about, let's get granular on that. So like, how many people from the first manager summer to the second were you able to keep? Do you remember?
Yeah, of my personal guys, it was, I think I only had like 7 finish of like the 25-ish. Yeah. Because the other guy that was co-managing with me, most of the guys were his guys. Yeah. I was just kind of the sprinter. Yeah. But I had 7 that year, and they all came back. Every single one. Anyone that finished the summer came back.
Yeah. And then you go out the next summer with
this last summer, we went out with
that's this last summer.
This last summer, yeah. Okay. Went out with right around like 65 guys. So big office. Just me this time though.
Fire.
We went to Maryland. So big market. Yeah. Maryland, DC, the whole thing. Went out 65 guys, finished with like 40-ish. Yeah. So definitely better retention than I had in years prior. But I think it's funny because I actually sold less than I've ever, I went back from $1 million down to a Golden Door, which a lot of people would look at that and be like, dude, it was totally a failure of a year. And for me, like I wanted to do more than a Golden Door. Like the Golden Door was like my floor. That was like my bare minimum that I wouldn't go home until I hit that. Yeah. Which like, that was probably the reason I did hit that is because that's what I let be my floor. But the big thing is like I sold less, but this summer helped me develop more as like as a husband, as a leader, than any other summer that I've ever done. And even a sales rep, like I actually had a way higher closing ratio than I've ever had. Just didn't talk to as many people. Well,
you gotta put on for your guys, dude.
Totally. And this was for me, what felt like a make or break summer. And what felt like if I didn't provide an A+ experience for these guys, they're just not going to come back. Cause I had 7 guys who had an amazing A+ experience. That leaves me 58 guys who either have had a bad experience in the past or have no experience at all. Yeah. And so this was like, okay, this is either going to be the start of like a very long career in door to door. Yeah. Or like me not doing this for a long time.
Well, and like you were saying, dude, I mean, you're a young man. What's the butterfly effect of an additional, say, 20 guys having a good experience and continuing to come back and recruit their own people, so on, so on.
Exactly.
What's the butterfly effect of that versus if they hadn't?
Yep.
It's crazy.
And so that was my thought process, this last summer. And, we produced, we crushed. Like, I'm way proud of the guys and everything they did. Some guys had better summers than they've ever had. Some guys had a slightly worse summer than they had the year before. And there was tons of variability. And that was the cool thing, because it taught me more within the guys who, like I said, doubled their best summer. Yeah. But I actually learned more from the guys who sold less than they had the summer prior
Yeah.
about managing. Cause like, and it really taught me a lot about ownership too.
Yeah.
Cause, you know, everything's your fault. Like everything's your fault always. Like that is the premise of extreme ownership. Everything that goes right is your fault, and everything that goes wrong is your fault.
Yeah.
And you just have to own it.
Yeah, there's no saying, well, that other guy did his job wrong. It's like, well, you trained him wrong.
Exactly.
Done.
Well, dude, he just wasn't working that hard. Well, you didn't instill hard work in him.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, like, yeah, no, like it was, you know, the feedback was amazing, and like I learned a ton, and that's why I'm so excited to do this again. And a lot of people don't get excited about going out for another summer.
Yeah.
Most people don't. Most people want to be done as soon as they possibly can. For me, like the reason I feel excitement is because that feedback, that constant feedback loop of being open enough with my people to where they feel comfortable enough being open with me, that's what fires me up. Because that I mean, it just gives me another opportunity to improve. Because you know, you climb to the highest mountain in one thing, and then there's another mountain.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, you get to the $1 million in sales, but you're still at the bottom of recruiting mountain.
Congratulations. You're a
Right.
brand new baby manager.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now we're climbing up the manager, and at some point we're going to have to become like the guy who manages 3 teams for the first time, or 5 teams for the first time.
I think it's important that you still hit your floor too. I'm a big floor, and that this might sound weird to say. I'm a big floor guy. I love
floors.
I love floor goals. Yeah, like you've heard the whole little thing people say about motivation versus discipline, how discipline's better.
Exactly.
To me, the ceiling goal is the motivation goal, and the floor goal is the discipline goal. It's like, did it tired, did it hungry, did it when I didn't want to.
Yep.
That's your floor goal. That's the grindy one.
Yep. 1,000%.
Yeah. And granted, you know, I hope you do a MILF, whatever the crap your goal is next summer, but golden door no matter what, just cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like,
who we are. That's what we do.
That's the standard.
Yeah.
It's what I expect from me. Yeah. And so for me, like the biggest thing, kind of to answer your question, to go back to the recruiting thing, is like, where I've seen the most success recruiting on a granular level is just being way authentic, and just trying to where I feel like I've really made a name for myself in the industry. And if I could put it on one thing other than my blue car that everyone always says, everyone always talks about.
I know the blue car too.
Oh, you're the guy that drives the blue Corvette. I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think, I mean, in my opinion, a lot of people just look at me as very abundant. And that's the goal, is like as much free value as I can provide everybody in the space. Like that's why I love things like this, because like I don't know who's going to listen, and I don't know what effect this is going to have on them, but just being here and like always showing up for things that like just for others, and having that abundance, I think is like what's helped me recruit at a high level.
Dude, I took a meeting today with some pretty top level reps from a competitor, and they kind of feel like they were sold a bill of goods about how much of a nice guy this other boss was. And then they were feeling taken advantage of when it turns out that he, like, you know, gets frustrated and stuff like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And I kind of joked with him. I was like, we all get frustrated. I'm just more transparently frustrated at you.
Yeah.
And we all kind of had
Exactly.
a laugh, but like, dude, maybe there's something to it, you know? It's
No, absolutely.
in a way. Well, I shouldn't say in a way. It's obvious. Authentic is trustworthy. You know?
Yeah.
It's like that guy might get upset sometimes. That guy has some imperfections, but at least we know who he is. You know?
We can see through the veil.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the only the people who actually work relentlessly at this job that don't recruit well, it's because they work relentlessly to be someone that they're not.
Right.
But the people who work relentlessly to be the best version of themselves will just attract other people who are trying to strive to get the same thing.
You feel like you attract people who are like you? You think that's a thing? Like, does your
Totally.
org have like your personality a little bit?
Totally. I think like it's funny because, you know, as you grow I mean, we've got, you know, almost 200 guys now, which is great. And like, I try to know every single one of them on a personal level. And as I meet new people, especially, I mean, I work with a ton of young guys, 17, 18, 19. And I feel old. Like I said before, I'm 24, but I feel old working with these guys because they're so young and hip and they're in all the new things. But in the core of everything, like the basis of the things I believe in are typically the things that they believe in.
Right.
And it's not about turning over, dimes for dollars. Like it's working for a long span of time, building wealth, doing it the right way, investing, growth, personal development, things like that.
Yeah.
Cars, even sports, like
little niche things.
Yeah, like super small things like we talked about day trading. Like I'm no expert at day trading, but like I post on my Instagram just to be accountable to others because I know if I don't post something that day, people are going to message me and say, how was today?
You get the,
right?
This is like a weird one. You ever gotten like the day trading recruit?
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy who like, that's what you connect on?
Yeah. And he's like, dude, my whole goal is to take this. And I didn't until I started broadcasting that I do this, right?
Yeah.
Because what you put out there is what you get back.
I asked because I kind of had this realization the other day. I was like, my company, Performance Windows, I have like 5 or 6 really high performers, like senior guys who are high strung, borderline Asperger's, just like analytical. And that's me, bro. That's me. Like they're like my sons, but it's what I attracted.
Exactly. It's like and it's funny because it's not just within my org. Like I look at other businesses within all companies and I just see like, okay, this group, I know what your values are based on like, I can look at your calendar and I can see who you are as a person. Like I see that you're gone for 2 weeks to Bali. That is totally your thing. That is so on brand for you.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to be there with all your guys because all your guys are the same way.
This is the Wanderlust freaking travel outfit. Go them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If that's what you're into.
But then you see guys who are like, okay, like you look at their calendar and you see it's loaded with meetings. When it's not meetings, it's investment stuff. When it's not investment stuff, it's calendared family time.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like who do those people attract? And you look at who's hanging out with them and they're fathers, they're husbands, they're, guys who are maybe a little bit older, 30s. And they're like, okay, this isn't just a means to an end. This isn't just like a stepping stone. This is like what I want to do. Yeah. And that's who they attract to. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's been weird because obviously being young, every year you become such a way diverse version of yourself.
Yeah.
Like last year I was not a day trader and now I am. And last year, like I did not know anything about real estate and now I do.
Yeah.
And I've seen like the people I recruited last year aren't into that stuff. And the people I recruited this year are.
Yeah.
And so it's funny how you develop, how you attract different people, but you also have to be careful not to leave the people behind that you recruited when that's not who you were.
Yeah.
Because you got to be authentic to the person that you said you were going to be when you recruited them.
Right.
And so either you're taking them along for the journey, or there's often times where it's like, yeah, me and you just aren't a fit anymore. And it's like, and it hasn't happened often, but there are times where, you lose a rep and they're just like, yeah, like, we just don't have the same interests anymore. Like you want to party, you want to travel, you want to do this. That's not what I want to do. Yeah. And so it's a weird dynamic of not like fighting for every single person to not leave because you love them so much, but also letting the people go who need to be let go.
Right. Right.
Which is smart. Interesting because like Casey Baugh talks about how, fight tooth and nail for every single rep because like you never know which rep is going to be the one that changes your program. Mm-hmm. But then he also says like, there's a lot of reps that I worked with that, I didn't want them on my team anymore because of what they brought. And so it's kind of a weird dynamic where you have to do both. Yeah,
I agree. No, I know what you mean 100%. As we kind of wrap up, Zach, any parting advice for any demographic you want to talk to? It could be new reps, new managers, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I really think like it comes down to 3 things. I like to think in 3s. I don't know why. My brain just goes in 3s. So I get that from Cody, I guess. That's his thing. Step 1 is like, be who you say you're going to be. Because I think that is relatable to both managers and sales reps. Like, do what you say you're going to do, be who you say you're going to be, wear what you do on your chest like a badge of honor, and report on it. Because like performance that's measured improves, but performance that's measured and reported upon improves drastically. Yeah. And so like if I know I have to post my day trading success on Instagram that morning, I'm probably not going to make a stupid decision because that's going to make me look really dumb. So I'm going to cut my losses when I need to because I don't want to post the account ending day, right? Yeah. So be who you say do what you say you're going to do. I guess step 2 is win the weight. That's something Diljit Taylor for BYU cross-country coach, national champion, female cross-country coach, sponsored by Nike. Like, she's amazing.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to her podcast, you should. She talks about winning the weight, and like the off season is the season. And like, really, like, it's what you do in the times, in the darkness, in the hard stuff, like when no one's watching, that helps you come to light when it matters.
Dude, let me tell a tiny story on that.
Please do.
I always laugh about this one because it was just so like anticlimactic, like football coach stuff. But he said it. It was weird. Anyway, senior year, I played my high school football, my last 2 years in Wyoming after playing my first 2 years in Florida. Florida is super serious. If you don't show up to off-season stuff, you're off the team. Wyoming was like half of them have to go do ranch stuff in the summer. Mm-hmm. So you just have to do like quote unquote like makeup sprints at the beginning of fall. I thought it was lame, but anyway.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of fall camp. We're done with a practice and coach calls everybody in. He says, "Hey boys, you're all working very hard. Proud of you. Some of you are going to do everything that you think you can do in fall camp to earn a starting spot, and you still won't because you didn't lift enough weights this off season and you're pretty weak."
Yep.
he just deadpans that one. I was like, "What?"
Blunt.
Yeah. But they didn't win the weight.
No. It's like, it doesn't matter if you show up ready to play on game day.
Yeah.
If you didn't prepare in the off season, like, you won't be selected to play.
Yeah.
So
Point blank.
That's the big thing, is like win the weight. And then the last thing is like, which I've learned, more recently, and as I'm getting older and come to a realization of more often now, because I see it all the time, is you have to plant to grow. Like, you have to plant to grow. So don't, like, people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and they underestimate what they can do in 5 years.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly chasing this 1 year bag, or this 1 year, like, oh no, like, I know I'm going to lose my program if I leave, or I know like things aren't going to be as good up front, but like, like, give it a year and I'll be right back to where I was. You won't. Like, it takes time. Growth takes time. Trust takes time. Like, it's earned in drips and lost in buckets. And so if you're not constantly putting yourself in a position where, you are planting, you are watering the feet, the ground on which you stand, and growing where you are. If you look 5 years in the future and you say, this isn't where I want to be in 5 years, then like, don't plant there, and like, plant somewhere where you think, okay, I'm going to be here for 5 years. Plan as if you're going to be there for 5 years. And then who knows, maybe in 3 years things change, but you'll be way further ahead from those 3 years by having a 5-year plan than you will from those 3 years of taking it 1 year at a time. Mm-hmm. And so you have to plant to grow. And if you plant in a place like there is better soil in some places, as they say, but at the end of the day, like, it's just to uproot and move and uproot and move and uproot and move doesn't make sense. Like, just make the best of where you are, as long as there's a ton of 5-year upside growth. Mm-hmm. Like, if you think, okay, in 5 years this is going to be great, then you'll be fine. So those are my 3 pieces of advice that a 24-year-old who hasn't lived much life can give.
Well, you've lived 5 good summers with 3 golden doors. It's relevant here.
5 long summers.
We accept that. Cool, dude. If our listeners want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Instagram's probably the best place. Kinzel Zach, KinzelZach is my handle on everything. So Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever. YouTube. And then if you're bored and you want to read a book, I just wrote a book.
Yes.
It's called The Power of the F Word. So it's a fun one. The title is not like what the book is. So It's just a little catch your eye thing. But that's probably where I'd say catch me.
Love it. Well, thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of D2D Success Stories. New episodes dropping every Tuesday. Tune in next week.